Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now October 8th of 2023, and given that Bob Iger is preparing to make a lot more announcements during his last earnings call of this year, which by the way takes place in the first week of November, give or take around there. So there's going to be a lot of things that Bob Iger is going to make public, not just to everyone around the globe, but also to the shareholders, and it's not going to be good because a lot of it has to do with all of the live action remakes, all of the remakes, of course, of, for example, such as the Pirates of the Caribbean reboot, and a lot more to do with the Disney Plus purge, and a whole lot more that will be going into, of course, the green light phase by 2024. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And one thing about Bob Iger, and I always like to call him Bob Liger. I know it may get old after a while, but that's who he is. He likes to lie. He likes to string along the general public and the shareholders, saying whatever he has to say to keep Disney afloat. Now look, we already know that the Disney stock has hit a decade low, and it most likely is going to continue to tank further. Based on what happens with the Marvels, based on what happens with the Disney parks, the merchandise, and Snow White 2024. Now let's get into exactly what Bob Iger had to deliver and exactly why it really is going to be the final nail in the Disney coffin here, and why I think that Disney doubling down here is just shooting themselves in the foot. Let's get into this. Now, specifically, we know that Iger and the Disney board of directors are already incompetent as it is, but this really brings things to a whole new level. With Disney currently dealing with endless backlash from their customers, one major development has to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger and what he had to deliver to the entire world by stating the following. We here at Disney felt it was a proper decision to adapt our animated classics into live action with a new approach to better fit the times that we live in today. We felt it was the best decision to give our customers a new approach to our upcoming live action materials such as Bambi, Sword in the Stone, Lilo and Stitch, Hercules, and that's just for starters by focusing away from the source material for a way to create new original content while also adapting these fan favorite characters into live material. These films of ours will be our most diverse installments yet and will fully support inclusion in the best way possible. Now guys, before I get to the next big thing that he brings up, let me just say one thing here. Ditching the source material is not going to solve any of your problems, Disney. If anything, it's only going to create more problems, and you're only digging a bigger hole that's going to be near impossible to climb out of. Now, we already know what they are doing with Bambi, alright? They're going to really drastically dial down the demise of Bambi's mother, and they're also going to be creating a different approach to the movie in general. It's not going to be the same as the original source material. Same exact thing that they did with Snow White, same exact thing that they do plan to do with other live action classics, or animated classics I should say, that's getting transformed into live action. Now, this is a typical Bob Iger, CEO response to the ongoing criticism of how fans view the Bambi live action remake, diverting itself from how the actual story was presented in its animated counterpart. The problem with this is that Bob Iger also goes on to mention the words diverse and inclusion, and we all know how heavily flawed and hypocritical those really are. So they want to make these movies the most diverse ones, the most, of course, diverse series of films by Disney's end, and they want to really double down on inclusion. Now, we already talked about inclusion, of how their DEI agenda as a whole, diversity, equity, and inclusion, etc., is just nonsense. Because it's all about, alright, we can pick and choose this, or who can be in these movies, but those can't be. So, moving onwards, this is where things get even more severe for Disney as Bob Iger continues to double down. We are also developing a strategy, he says, to retell already established live-action works that we created throughout the years, something I will be proud to discuss further later this year with the public and our shareholders. We aim to make these films more lighthearted and focusing away from any kind of violence or storylines that would divide our audience. We are going to be retelling many of these animated classics with plans to reboot some of our already established live-action works that we are proud of. Our goal is to make these films smaller scale as per our cost containment plan of spending less and making less in order to create a pattern so that we can analyze that over the years to come to see where we can go next. So here's another problem, alright? These films are going to be smaller scale, both for the cast and the crew and for the storyline. That means cheaper looking movies getting made faster, and less stardom power in these films. And that really is going to show you the demise of Disney. So not only will they be hiring less stardom power and less recognizable figures in Hollywood, but they are also firing a lot of employees over at Disney. That's going to kickstart in the first quarter of 24. We talked about this weeks ago, and how that's going to make a big impact on less crew, less cast, to get these movies out faster, and spending less. Now look, we know that a movie by Gareth Edwards, the creator, was only $80-some million, and it looks amazing as far as the visuals go, as far as the overall cinematics go, and the special effects. There's no excuse, alright, why Disney had to go so over budget over the years with things like Indiana Jones 5, and all of those other movies, right? So, further, he goes on to elaborate and conclude, we will also be aiming to make our live-action remakes more friendly with younger audiences, as we realize some of the animated films that we had put out in the past may have been a tad too extreme for our younger audience. We are finding ways to create that balance to cater these films to both adults and young moviegoers, while also obtaining a successful series of films and television. We are also going to be making some important announcements involving our cutbacks on Disney Plus as we prepare to raise rates in the near future. We will be going over all those details carefully as well in the next couple of weeks with our shareholders and the general public. Of course, he is talking about the next earnings call, the final one, in the first week of November. I'm pretty sure that's what he's talking about there as he closed all of this. Now, what he actually confirmed is that Disney Plus rates are going to go up while material is going to get cut. That means more TV shows, more movies are going to get deleted from Disney Plus, while the price of this service is just going to keep going up throughout 2024. We know that Netflix plans to do this after the SAG strike. They plan to raise their rates as well, and I think that's nonsense, to be honest. But they all love to use the common thing to point at, and that is, of course, everything related to the current state of the economy. They always blame that in order to raise rates. And I've said this so many times, I don't even think that's what it is. I think that Disney is just greedy, and that they don't really need to raise these rates at all. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.